before you even like walk on the court, you can either mentally win or lose the game depending on your mindset. Think about that, because that will save you so much time, energy, and headache when you're going over your classroom procedures and things like that. Start that now, today, like actually yesterday. Hey teammates, welcome back to Teaching with Tenia. I am Tenia and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm talking about everything you need to do to prep for your first year of teaching or just for this upcoming school year. I hope to make this a series, so let's get started. So before we get started, actually, I am eating lunch because I just got out of summer school and so I'm really hungry. Summer school is only half a day. If you haven't seen my first week of summer school video, go ahead and check that out. Thank you very much. But yeah, for lunch, I am eating this place right beside me. It's called Dancing Potatoes. So I went to go get my coworker and I a dancing potato. Let me tell you guys, I'll put it across the screen, or Ian put it across the screen, but it is so good. Like, it has broccoli, crab meat, and just the potato by itself is good. Plus the sour cream, shrimp, crab imperial, broccoli, cheese, mozzarella. It's just so good. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking with you guys and eating so I can tell you guys everything you need to prep before you go into the classroom. Before we get into the actual nitty-gritty of prepping for the school year, you have to go ahead and prep your mindset. If you have been watching me any amount of time, I love doing teacher mindset videos and just knowing what posture your brain is in or where your heart is in before you even walk into the classroom. Because I play basketball, so I use a lot of sports analogies, and before you even like walk on the court, you can either mentally win or lose the game depending on your mindset. So I believe that mindset is super crucial in teaching, let alone affecting the lives of the young children that sit before us every day. If you don't know by now, I just wrapped up my first year teaching third grade and absolutely loved it. And I've learned a lot of lessons along the way, which I walked through you guys with in my first, second, third, and fourth quarter video. But yeah, talking about the ups and downs of teaching and going into my second year as a third grade teacher. Wow. That sounds so crazy to say. Like, I'm actually in my second year of teaching. Like, I'm actually doing this thing. Compared to last year, I didn't know what I was doing. And now this year, it's like, okay, I've already been through the ropes. And I know the curriculum that I'll be teaching, which is third grade ELA, again, like I did this past year. So before you get into prepping anything, I want you to think about your teaching philosophy and your goals for this year. I feel like if you don't know how you teach or the way you want to be as a teacher, then you're gonna go in and go whatever way the wind blows or whatever people tell you to do. Knowing your why and your teaching philosophy is crucial. And so my teaching philosophy is actually pretty long, but I'll give you guys like a short version of it now. So my teaching philosophy is that all students, I believe, all students have the ability to learn through quality, explicit instruction, and individualized support, which is basically what I believe. Like, I love teaching small group, but I love meeting students where they are. Okay, so because of that, now I know what to prep, along with my goals. My goals for this year, which look different your first, second, and third year. So basically, if you're a first year teacher, your goal is to survive and get through the school year with students learning to the best of their ability. But going into my second year, now that I know what the expectations are and how I actually see and progress through student learning, my goals for this year, I actually have 3. My first goal is to understand students' individual needs better. I feel like I knew the group as a whole. I want to tailor my instruction to be more individualized for each student, and then even having like quick one-on-one sessions, like whether it's 2 to 5 minutes, just to give them more personalized instruction as I'm doing whole group, which is going to be really difficult, but I feel like I can get it done. You know, it's going to be challenging, but that's one of my goals. My second goal is to give students a say in their learning. Basically, student leadership and differentiation. I want to hit that home this year because I know what students now need and how to hit that, whether it's in their environment or giving them autonomy in their learning. I found that really beneficial in the fourth quarter. So now this year, I want to start that quarter 1. And my third goal, which aligns with data, is basically to embed writing into my curriculum. And I know it's there, but I want to do a better job at explicitly teaching writing skills, because on the MCAP, I got a lot of my students, which is like our standardized assessment, I got a lot of students to pass by just teaching writing, and I want to do that more individualized for more students so that more students can pass and basically grow data, things like that. So those are my 3 goals. After I think about what your goals are for the year, I also want you to think about like, what are some things that you need as a teacher, like some non-negotiables, so that you can meet those goals. So if I say my goals are 1, 2, and 3, okay, well, what supplies, materials, or support do I need so that I can reach those 3 things? I thought about this question to myself, what do I need to be successful? And I broke this down into 3 things as well this year. I need flexible seating because I was not really prepared for students not being able to sit down, especially with short attention spans due to social media and all these other things. I definitely need flexible seating this year. And I also need a kidney table. I know it may sound really arbitrary, but I feel like where I was doing my small groups, I wasn't able to meet the needs like I wanted to. Not based off a table, but I feel like I could be more personable and just help the student here, and here with a kidney table and having them sit in front of me. Things like that. That's something that will make me feel better. And then also having student binders, which I did this year, so hopefully my admin buys them again this coming year. But having student binders allows them to track what we're learning along with anchor charts and other things. But those 3 things are, I feel like if I had those 3 things, I could be successful as a teacher. Also, down below, I'm going to leave my Amazon checklist for you to check out some things that you may need or ways to help your students learn to learn and grow. Okay, so after you prep your mindset, your goals, and your teaching philosophy, basically everything that you need as a teacher, and figured all that out, the next thing you actually need to prep is your calendar. I showed you guys my calendar in another video, but your teaching calendar, go ahead and prep. Basically, if your district has the days that you will be teaching, the days that you won't be teaching, remote days, when progress reports come out, when progress monitoring needs to happen, half days, all the days of the school year, go ahead and prep your calendar now so that when the school year comes, you're not having to move dates because you planned a day when actually it's an early release day. I haven't had that happen to me, but I've heard and seen other teachers do that. They planned a whole lesson when they only had half a day and not the amount of time to do it. So you're constantly moving around things. But if you have dates that you know, the things that are already in your control, already concrete, go ahead and put that and prep your calendar. That's the first thing. The next thing you need to do is prep your curriculum, of course. I did a whole video on how to implement curriculum and how to go through and see what really needs to be taught and basically the core essentials when prepping curriculum, because not only do you have to dissect it well as a teacher for your lesson plan, but how is your delivery going to be? I feel like delivery with explicit instruction is key. So if you haven't dissected it yourself, then 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to deliver it well in front of your students. So how can you as a teacher go ahead and digest the curriculum? I know you're probably not getting paid over the summer, but it will benefit you later on when you're not pulling your hair on the first quarter because you're not with pacing guides, or what the curriculum says to do and what your students are able to do are totally different. So I advise you to go ahead and prep the curriculum, prep your lessons at least 2 weeks. My school requires us to have 2 weeks of lesson plans before the first day of school. And then of course you can move stuff around, but just to have that already done so that you're not stressed out at the beginning of the school year. The third thing you need to prep is student materials. How do you want your students to get their materials? How do you want them to put them away? Label everything. I actually have a label maker in my Amazon wish list for this next year because even though we'll touch on classroom organization later on, but having student materials labeled so that they know where they are and it belongs to that students, because unfortunately, even my 3rd graders didn't know how to share at the beginning of the school year, and sharing materials just didn't work out best, so I know I need to change that this coming year. But how do you want your students to get their materials, workbooks, journals, whatever they need? Go ahead and prep those stuff now, especially if you have multiple blocks. How are they gonna store their items and make sure that the other block doesn't touch their things, or even make sure their pencils are ready to learn? All this stuff will save you time in the long run if you prep it now. And I wish somebody would have told me that. I probably did allude to it for sure, but I just didn't know how much in depth I needed to be planning student material. So basically, as soon as they walk in, how are they gonna get their pencil? How are they gonna get this, and this, the things that I'm asking them to get? And along with your seating chart and arrangement. A lot of people sleep on this, but classroom arrangement is super key. And I've already low-key been dreaming about my classroom arrangement, and it doesn't even have to be elaborate. Like I have this little sketch from my old calendar of what I want my class to look like this year. I'll go in depth later on about how I'm transforming my classroom into my dream classroom and making sure that everything I want is in there for my students and me. Also labeling, I talked about that, but name tags. I didn't think name tags were essential until you get to the end of the school year and you let students have that autonomy to sit wherever they want, but we still can't handle it. Where do you want students to sit? Where do you want them to go during what times? And how do you want students to move around your classroom? Think about that, because that will save you so much time, energy, and headache when you're going over your classroom procedures and things like that. and you're clear about where you want students to be and when. Some other things you can go ahead and start prepping is your classroom library. Do you have enough books? Or figure out from the school that you'll be teaching at, what books do they have, what books do you need to make sure your class library is available to students. I know some teachers like to organize them from nonfiction to fiction, or color code them, or do it by topic or interest, or modules that they're learning throughout the school year. So go ahead and organize your library so that when you get into your classroom, boom, all you gotta do is put it on the shelf or however you like to make it look nice for your students. Go ahead and prep your manipulatives. Manipulatives are anything that the students will be using. Like, for example, in ELA, we use a lot of magnetiles, the little alphabets for sounds, letting sounds, blending, decoding, encoding. We use them for basically everything. And so having them already set aside in Ziploc baggies, labeled with names and numbers on them, saving us a lot of time during the school year. But also if you need to laminating is a huge part, especially with your name tags. Go ahead and basically prep all that stuff now, because when you get into your classroom, it depends on your school how much time you actually need to prep in your classroom, but you want all this stuff done so that you're just basically putting things where they need to be and then going to staff meetings or whatever your school may have you to do. But yeah, manipulatives, I'm telling you, as soon as you can, go ahead and separate them on how you want to maybe implement them in your classroom, and then put labels on them, because when they get into students' hands, you might not get them all back. And it's easy once you already have it prepped and organized to say, oh, I'm missing this letter, or this letter's not here. This is the kid that used it last, where is it? And then try to find it. So another thing that I pretty much already went ahead and touched on is your furniture arrangement. How do you want your furniture set up? Like the cozy corner. I had a cozy corner in my classroom, the library. How you can do whole group instruction, small group instruction, or even center stations, however you want your class to flow. How are you setting those expectations and making it easier for students to know, okay, when I'm in this area, I do this. When I'm in this area, I do this. And setting that up for your students. Even places and dots to stand in line. I know I had affirmations on the ground so that students know where to stand. I don't want them too close to each other because we haven't learned personal space yet. But how are your students lining up and setting that expectation so that they know where they need to be and when. I think furniture arrangement, like I said, that goes a long way. Another thing you need to prep is get to know your activities. Go ahead and get those out the way. Do a bunch of research on TPT, or I actually did a video on this as well, some beginning of the school year activities to get to know your students so that when learning does happen, you know how to pull from their interests or how to motivate them in a way that they need to be motivated because you already know who they are. So 2 more things you need to prep. The first thing is your rewards and consequences. Now, prep this really well. If you don't get anything out of this video, prep your rewards and consequences. Because I think coming out of college, we think that, oh, we're teaching a bunch of robots. I'm gonna teach a lesson. They're gonna sit there, be quiet, and do whatever I say. No. We live in a simple world and our students push back. Like especially if they're new to something or you're a new teacher to them at the beginning of the year, they have not gotten to know you and you need to get to know them. So some students meet that, unfortunately, with resistance or like trying to test you at the beginning of the year to see how much they can get away with the rest of the year. So having rewards and consequences already down packed, like yes, you can create your classroom culture or environment together, but already having in your head the idea of where you want your students to be, how you want them to act, and how you're gonna get them there, start that now. Today, like actually yesterday. Last but not least, you need to prep your organization, paper flow, things like that. If you already have your organization systems, I preach this all the time. I actually did a whole video on this as well, how to organize your classroom, because you're gonna get papers like nonstop. You're gonna have folders, you're gonna have student work. It gets out of control very quickly. So go ahead and prep. How do you want to file your papers? How do you want to store your IEPs? How do you want to store your small groups and student work? Things like that. Go ahead and think through all this stuff. I know it's a lot, but trust me, you would thank me later, and most importantly, thank yourself later on, because once the school year hits and you're rolling, you really don't have time to think about this stuff or put as much effort as you should put into this stuff. And quite frankly, a lot of first year teachers don't know, or teachers in general, if you're switching career fields or anything like that. So I hope this was helpful and that you get to planning right away. I know some schools start at the beginning of August, I know other schools start at the end of August, but needless to say, if you prep now, it will save you so much time later on. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, which is, how are you preparing for your classroom? What are some things that you're getting ready now so that when you are allowed to go into your classroom, that everything works seamless and you already know what you need. Go ahead and comment that down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.